faces. Hi, everyone. It's so lovely to see you all. We've got a lot of people coming in today. So let's just jump in. I might have scared our guest this evening by my excitement and telling her how many questions I already have. As a West Coast girl, and even if you're not, you totally have the image. Are you from you? So I see you, because you know that, what's that Fame? I'm aging myself here. The show Fame.
The movie. Yeah.
I always wanted to be I was in the suburbs in California. I was a Valley girl, and I wanted to be a cool New York kid that like went to drama school and was like, and you, are you from New York originally?
I'm a New Yorker. I was born in Manhattan, but I grew up Queens and Long Island, here and there, two different places.
You're an authentic, cool New York girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when did you start because Jo Anna she's a writer. Tell me if I'm leaving anything out. She's a writer. She's a photographer. She's a blogger. She started out working for Scholastic, and she does a lot of nonfiction and biographies, but now she's done pretty much everything. She works for the publishers. She's a cool New York actor. And I mean, that's a resume that I personally would kill for. So, but when did you start? What I want to know is, when did you start doing the whole act? Like, what did you jump into first? Like, and what age, and what were you thinking? I'm going to be a movie star.
Well, after college, I started doing off Broadway, or anyone who would hire me, theater. I also did some technical theater. So I was a stage manager for a while for a couple of productions. And then from that, I got into TV back when soap operas were still a big thing. And that's how I got my AFTRA card and then my SAG card after that, because I had a small role for a while. And then I did some film, went out to LA for a while. Hated it the first time I went there, loved it the second time I went there, because I had a lot of friends finally out in Los Angeles, and it didn't seem so remote.
It can be a cool place to be if you don't have friends, LA.
Yeah, it was weird because I don't drive, which is not good if you're in Los Angeles. So I really had to prey on people to give me lifts to places. But we joined a local gym, which was a 15-minute walk. And I thought it was the greatest thing in the world because I could walk in LA to something. And so I'd be walking on Hollywood Boulevard to go to the gym, and I would notice guys would slow up and start beeping at me. And I thought, this is weird. I think they thought I was a hooker because I was on Hollywood Boulevard and I was walking. So anyway, so that's where I started. And then I also started doing voiceover work. I did some commercials, mostly Japanese voiceovers. That's very strange.
Would you speak Japanese?
No, they like Americans, and they would dub it underneath. So I would do the on camera for like some bizarre product, like booze usually. And then, they dub on the bottom what I was saying. In other words, it left my voice, but they would put in, on the bottom what I was saying.
Where were you in LA?
When I was in LA, yeah, I had an agent who submitted me for commercials, and they were always Japanese commercials. So anyway, that's my story.
But were you like dreaming of, what was your goal? Were you thinking, I want to be a serious actress? What was your dream at the time?
My dream was, and probably still is, that I wanted to be a serious theater actress. I kind of fell into the TV stuff. I went out to LA looking for film stuff, and I came back from LA because I was so typecast all the time. Again, it was hard for me to live in LA as a New Yorker because I couldn't walk. I felt more constricted. But I found that the stuff I was being sent for was really off-putting. I mean, I was in these Japanese commercials. I
love that.
I auditioned for 2 or 3 leads in sitcoms, which were okay, because I was very young and I looked even younger. And so they'd always submit me as one of the teenagers in a show. But other than that, the other side was I was always like the pickup, or the call girl, or the girl who ran away and, got picked up by some, whatever, big bad guy who then turned me into a call girl. And I thought, isn't there anything more in TV and film than this? So it kind of became upsetting for me that I couldn't get cast. And an agent said to me, it's because you're quote unquote exotic. I wasn't to me. And so they said they didn't know what to do with me. So apparently if they thought you were exotic, you had to be a hooker. So,
Are you Italian?
Italian, yeah.
Yeah, because I always got dodgy goth prisoner number 4. Like, I might be I never knew Italian was exotic.
I didn't either. I thought, okay.
So you got homesick. So when you're in New York, are you living in like a cool Sex and the City flat? Sorry, I do have a couple of cliches. I like. Or are you living with your parents?
Nobody lives in those flats except the people in Sex and the City. We live off Broadway on 71st Street. It's a Manhattan apartment. It's small. You're intrigued.
I'm thinking every Woody Allen film I've ever seen right now.
Well, I did a lot of dubbing for Woody Allen films, although I guess that's not whatever now to mention you worked with Woody Allen, but I did a lot of dubbing for him.
What is the dubbing again? It's
looping. It was looping work. So you'd go in when he would do a film, and you'd go in with a group of people and you'd loop. It'd be a party scene or a carnival scene or a street in New York. And everybody, you talk.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did one horror movie where I was the screamer. So all I did was stand there for half an hour trying different screams out. So they would
Did that
put
hurt
it
your
into
voice?
Yeah, I mean, it did that day. I did it for about half an hour, and I would say that night it was hoarse, but it was a one-time deal, so I was willing to do it. And I think I did get credit. It was this obscure film. I got some kind of credit in the looping thing on the bottom. I don't think it said screamer, but I did get credit.
Dodgy screamer number 2. So of all the things you do, and headshot photographer, are you one of those people that can like take someone that I'm asking for a friend, that doesn't look 20 anymore and make them look interesting and full of character rather than not 20 anymore?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, first of all, everything has to be outdoors. And when you say that, especially to women, they go, but it's subdued lighting. And I also play in Photoshop. And so I find everybody looks fine. I mean, I would have to say I hope she's not here. The oldest person I photographed was probably Davina Porter. And I did her headshots, and I did something for her for Audiophile. And she loves this shot. I thought she looked lovely. So I do try to capture something about the person. And age doesn't have anything to do with it. I think in the right light and the right angle, everybody looks like they're 10. If you catch somebody in the middle of joy or laughter, just as the laughter subsided, there's a look on their face that's a kid that I think translates to the picture.
Oh, can't you come to the UK and take my picture? I want to look like I'm 10.
We can't travel. And if I got into, I don't know if they'd let me in and then I don't know if they'd let me out.
If you ever have to come for Johnny or for some coaching with Johnny, or just hop on that plane and I will pay you if you happen to be here anyway.
I'll do it for free. I'll do it for free.
For that, are you kidding? It's priceless. So what do you think of yourself as? Do you think I'm an audiobook narrator? I'm a photographer? What is do you most identify as now?
That's a good question. I think I most identify with being an actor. I enjoy writing. I love doing photography. And if I try to make them too much of who I am and turn it into a profession, I think it's going to lose its joy for me. I remember I was just taking pictures for the heck of it, and then I would always take Johnny's headshots. And Robin Whitten loved these headshots. And she says, "Who's doing your headshots?" And Johnny said, "Joanna takes the picture." And all of a sudden I was working for Audiophile magazine doing pictures. And I remember thinking, it's fun, and it was fun, but it kind of took away some of the spontaneity for me, because it's like, now I'm working for somebody else, and you've got to get the picture, and it's got to be good because it's going to be somewhere for eternity, and that takes it away. So I think I think of myself more as an actor than anything else, with a few other hats.
That's really interesting because I told them on the last call I'd forgotten this feeling. I just did a public domain book, and that feeling, I'd forgotten it. And I realized it was because I did it for me. Nobody was looking at it. I wasn't responsible to anyone else.
Right.
For the pure joy. That's it. For the pure joy of it. That's big.
That's exactly it. I mean, I love walking around with either a regular camera or my iPhone and just taking pictures around New York or whatever. That for me is wonderful. Once you hire me and I'm, on the bullet there and I've got to get the picture, and especially if you're doing something that's going to be in a magazine or a newspaper, it's kind of, they give you, I remember I had to do a picture of somebody who worked for the New York Times. Her name escapes me at the moment, but she was embedded with Hillary Clinton when Hillary was running. And so I was asked to take a picture, and I thought, oh, this is fun. She would only meet me at the New York Times. She would only meet me on a certain floor at the New York Times. And then the day of, she said, there's big things going on. Things are erupting all over. I said, so we're not doing the picture? She said, no, we are. But I only have 10 minutes. And I almost freaked out. I said, 10 minutes? I don't even have enough lighting to work in the Times building. So I said, you have to find some place. And I said, it has this kind of light. It has to be near a window. It has a yada, 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 yada. She says, okay, but I'm only giving you 10 minutes. I said, okay. I went in, they scooted me up there. They did everything but search me. And then she literally gave me barely 10 minutes. And I got the picture. And I remember being so proud of myself. But I thought, I don't ever want to be under that kind of pressure again. Usually I give people an hour or two and we take shots. This was do it now or die. Luckily it worked, but I don't like working under that kind of pressure. So it's like, not my thing.
Do you find that things like that, in a way, I guess it builds the muscle. Being able to work under that pressure, as you said, made you proud. It builds that aspect, but then you get a mix. Sometimes you don't want to always do it. I think if I was only ever doing public domain books all the time,
oh yeah, you'd lose.
I'd be eating cereal out of the box, watching Murder, She Wrote reruns.
Yeah, I mean, then I think if you do anything over and over and over and over, it just kind of becomes rote, and you just lose whatever enjoyment you had out of doing it in the first place. I mean, even with audiobooks, I do a lot of nonfiction, and if I have two or three of, sometimes there's nothing happening, but all of a sudden there'll be like 3 or 4 books in a month, and you're going, and you're afraid to say no, but you say yes. And then you start realizing you're just not having a good time. Who's the author? What's the topic? It all kind of runs in, and whatever joy it used to give you is gone. But then you don't work for a month or two, and a book comes in, and all of a sudden it's back because you're like, oh, this is a good topic. This is fun, So I think it's something you have to constantly stay on top of. Otherwise, it gets boring and a rut.
Yeah, and Marguerite Gavin Shannon said that, and I always try to remember it, that she started thinking of going into her booth as going in as a sanctuary. Uh-huh. She gets to go in and take a break from life. I tried that with exercise. It didn't work. and fasting, but the booth, because you can like spend. Did you ever have to work in like corporate offices? Because that feeling of like, oh, I should do this, or having a job you hate. Did you ever have that type of job that you hate?
I had, I guess, luckily, one job like that right out of college, because I was just moving into the city, and I was studying over at Stellar Adler's. And so I needed.
Oh my God. I'm so jealous of you. I can't even pretend I'm not a fangirl.
and so it was easy to be in the city, and it started as a part-time job that became a full-time job for about a year, and it was a fiber company. And I got hired to be fiber. What did I know of fiber? Wood pulp. And so it was on Park Avenue, and I was the receptionist. And I thought, oh, I could handle this. People would come and talk to me. They'd bring me food. I'd answer the phone. And then the VP liked me because I was Italian, of Italian heritage. And he had a lot of Italian clients. So he moved me into the back to be an executive secretary. I knew how to type, but that was about it. And I was there for a year and a half, and it was the worst time of my life. I'm not a corporate person. I just couldn't do it. So from there, I went to restaurants and catering, and I did catering management. I did party planning, but because I could deal with the public, but I couldn't deal with being in a corporate atmosphere. It just was not my thing.
But you listened to your intuition. That was good, because I was the same, but I stayed 20 years
No,
doing
I would
those
have killed
things.
myself.
I bargained. I let myself act at night and on the weekends and just never slept. But it's good that you
Well,
listen to your intuition.
that's kind of what this, I'd get off at 5 o'clock, and I'd either go to a movie or theater, or doing a show with somebody, or doing a reading, or I'd be studying. And I didn't like that. I thought, I wanted to be the other way around. I want to have my time free to do this as a living, not the other way. So,
Like when you go on vacation to somewhere unbelievable and wonderful, and you're happy, and you're only there for 4 days, and then you have to go back.
yes,
You want your life to be the place. I think that's brilliant.
exactly.
So what made you decide to become a coach? How did that happen?
Well, that we can blame Mr. Heller for mostly. I don't know if he's still there somewhere. We do this, we were doing until this year, a weekend excursion where it's a retreat, and it was in Rhode Island. And I was sort of coaching people for free, if that makes sense. People would call me up and say, they'd send me a piece, and they said, what do you think of this? Like friends. And what does this sound like? And I'd say, blah, 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 so I was sort of coaching friends. And so the first year we did Rhode Island, Johnny said, I'm putting you in as a coach. And I was like, what? And then he threw me in with Sean Pratt. And I'm like, oh, please, really? Me and Sean? Well, Sean and I actually worked out really well. It was kind of, we're almost on the same page, but not quite. So we're not quite enough to make it interesting. And so I kind of worked with him. And then from that, over time, I started getting more, I guess, felt more validated. So I was able to kind of say, well, I guess I'm a coach, sure. Because what was happening was when people said to me, do you coach? I'd send them off to like Shannon maybe, or Carol Monda, or somebody. I'd send something, Johnny, go there. I would send them to other people. And then I started realizing, no, I can do this. I can send them to me. I can say, well, I coach. But it really was kind of an affirmation that I had to say to myself, yeah, I can coach. I think part of it is I was a stage manager. I also used to direct children's theater, which isn't quite the same, but I knew what it was. Well, sometimes it is.
That's called going through boot camp.
So, I kind of knew, I know what it's like. And with catering and being a catering manager where you deal with, Bridezilla and stuff, I kind of knew how to deal with people. And I did study theater, and I did teach theater for one semester as part of my course. So I thought, I can do this. And it was more affirming to myself that I could do it. So now I've been coaching, I guess, almost 5 years.
But people love you. I mean, you obviously fell easily into the niche, because everything I've heard, people like, you're a well-respected coach.
Well, that's nice to know, because I kind of stay away a lot from social media or stuff like that, so people could say anything they want about me.
Well, also, I think the quote was, Jo Anna seems kind of quiet, but the minute she talks, you think, oh my God, she knows her stuff.
Oh, that's nice. I'd like to believe that.
Yeah, and it's come from in several different ways from several different people, but it's always
really
that.
right.
So is it an acting bent? Because every coach has like their, what is it, POS, point of sale, or?
Oh, yeah, I focus on acting. Now, I know not everybody who narrates a book ever had an actor's training or was an actor. Years ago, yeah, it kind of naturally flew into the actor's spectrum. But now you don't have to be. But I do think you have to understand basic acting technique to get a better handle. Otherwise, your reading's flat. I mean, everyone can narrate, but can you be entertaining, or can you, drive a point home? Can you inhabit a character? Can you honor the writer's words? I think that takes an acting bent. And so mine is definitely, I teach, I've had people who, I'll say, well, this is a beat. And they'll go, what's a beat? And I've even had people, this is a scene. They go, well, what do you mean by this is a scene? Well, this is the viewpoint. What do you mean by this is the viewpoint? So I've had people who are really, really basic, and I've had other people who are classically trained, or are trained, but they don't quite understand audiobooks. I mean, I have a friend who does commercials, and she's done a ton of little films, and she's been on stage, and she's done a lot of stuff. I just put it that way. And she was reading, and she was so stiff, and she has a fantastic personality, and she's out there. And I thought, who are you?
And this was your friend.
It was a friend. I've known her for years. I said, who are you? This isn't you.
Oh, you said it to her?
She's got she's like a light bulb. She enters a room and people look, and it's kind of like, she was like, what? And so at the end of it, she said, oh, I get it. This is another acting thing. I said, yes, you're not just speaking, you have to act. So yeah, my bent definitely is taking people through some kind of acting. I think I even wrote on because for the longest time I didn't even put it on my website, but I think I actually said, I studied, you don't have to. This is who I studied with, this is where I went, but you don't have to do that. You just have to listen to me and try to incorporate, what I can teach you. So yeah, it's definitely an acting concept. And then from there into narration.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but do you not think, so many people I know that, and it's ever since COVID, and it's because people were made redundant, and a lot of people are coming in, a lot of them are in the group and everything, and they're, I'd like to give this a try. And right. I'm always of the firm belief that anyone that wants to try something, you try. You don't start getting intimidated by new people flooding a market or something. If I believe that if somebody loves it, they'll stay and it'll work out, and but what do you say to them when they worry? I mean, because I feel personally that if they have curiosity and an openness to learn, an actor doesn't necessarily have to have gone to such and such school, but so many people are afraid of that. They feel like they're intimidated or they're less prepared in this job because they don't have an acting background. What's your experience?
Well, I can understand that feeling, but I don't think it necessarily translates. I mean, for one thing, I find that almost everybody who bothers to look into audiobook narration, even if they weren't trained as an actor, they have a creative side. You talk to them and they'll say, oh, yeah, no, I sketch, or, oh, no, I do photography, or, oh, well, I did computer this, or I developed programs, or they always have something creative in their background. And I think if you can mine that, if you can get to whatever that creative germ was they had for whatever it was they had that for, and try to get them to apply that to narration, I think it can work for everybody. I think it's easier. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's much easier if you're an actor. I mean, we're used to looking at a script and analyzing everything and saying, okay, this is A, this is B, this is C. This is the opening, and you're getting to here. You don't understand that.
You know how to use the tools.
Yes, and so you already know that. So you're kind of three quarters of the way there already. Someone who doesn't have that doesn't know what you're talking about, or doesn't quite intrinsically understand that. And I think part of the problem for people who aren't trained as actors is, I kind of go through this whole thing of, like I said, beats and scenes and discovery and blah, 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 blah. So it's a lot. So I'll get someone who has no acting training saying, well, now I'm all confused. Before I just read, how do I keep this in mind and that in mind and the other thing? And I'm like, well, do it one step at a time when you practice. And eventually all those things become part of who you are when you narrate. I mean, for instance, a lot of people will just read a scene and I'm like, no. What kind of trees were there? What did the house look like? What's going on in this scene? And they'll be like, I'm so busy thinking about that. I'm saying, when you prep, think about that.
Now tell us a story.
Yes, when you're reading, tell us the story. But when you prep, that's in your, they're oak trees, the house is red, blah, blah, blah. fine. Once you've got that prepped, it will translate when you narrate.
And
But
do you know what?
yeah.
You made me realize something else, because I think I would almost rather be somebody joining as an audiobook narrator without an acting background. Yes, it would be scary. Yes, it would be intimidating. Yes, I'd have to start with acting classes. But what I almost was somebody that had actor training all through school and then didn't use it. I'd rather be somebody that's following something I love now and having the guts to get the training than have the training and just throw it away. And there are more people living in LA a long time. There are a lot of people like that.
I don't know if this is an actual fact, but it's my theory. Everything's muscle memory. If you go to the gym and you work out and you're pumped up and you look great, and then you don't go for 6 months and you turn it into jello, when you go back, you will find that everything bounces back a lot quicker than it did when you never had muscles in the first place. So everything is kind of muscle memory. And that's how I feel about acting. I mean, you don't have to have left acting school yesterday. That wouldn't be bad because it's fresh. I think it's part of who you are. It's part of your muscle memory. And you don't even realize that you've been using acting for years in different situations. You've probably been mimicking people. It's there. And so I think if you were trained to begin with, I think it comes back. I think it slowly comes back. I don't think it's thrown away. I don't think acting training is ever thrown away.
You remember the language. Yeah, saying that. It made it easier for me to fake it and pretend that I hadn't quit for 20 years. I knew the lingo.
Well, you read stories of course, I can't think of anyone at the moment, but you do read stories of actors who trained, couldn't get work, got married, had families, retired, and then all of a sudden they come back and do films because now, whatever, they've aged into the proper category, or their type is specifically required, and they pick it up, and they might have not touched an acting technique since they were 21 years old. And now they're in their 60s and 70s, and it just comes back. Funnily enough, I have found that in terms of narration, there are a lot of people over 70 who are coming into this for the first time because they've had a life, they've got grandchildren, and they listen to audiobooks, and they slowly, get interested and step their feet in. And they kind of think, well, this is something I can do from home.
Yeah.
If I can do it, I can do it from home. What's better? Instead of just collecting my Social Security check, I can actually, use my brain and make even, a little bit of a living. In fact, with a lot of them, it's not making a living. It's just being worthwhile, because I don't know how it is in the UK, but I can tell you in the United States, elderly people, forget it. They don't exist. Everybody has got to forever be 25 or 30. It's ridiculous. In other countries, we respect the elderly, or even not the elderly, just anyone older. In this country, we don't. And I think those people come in because they want to be validated as people who are still alive and functioning.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've heard of her because it's over here, but Penelope Keith did the Agatha Raisin series, MC Beaton, and it's like 25 books, and it's not the type of book I would ever listen to. There's 25 in the series or something, and Penelope Keith is, I don't know how old she is, but I mean, she's older. She's, a famous actress. I listened to that series, I think about 5 times, the entire series, because through hard times in my life, Penelope Keith made me feel I could go to sleep if I listened to it because the characters are so beautifully drawn, and her character, and that is what a narrator can do. So, I mean, if you're doing that for a living, I don't care what age you are, you know what I mean? It's way more worthwhile and plus you can eat what you want and nobody can see you.
That's right. You don't need a haircut. You don't have to dye your hair. Nobody sees you. You're just in the booth by yourself. Well, except for today.
I know. Yeah, I shouldn't have. What was I thinking? YouTube video. I'll just rock up. But do you have a set curriculum, or do you respond to their questions and queries? What?
I consider myself someone who goes in and like I'm a utility player. I kind of go in there and I approach it for whatever level you're on. So it's not like set in stone that, you know, if I give you A equals B equals C. I gauge on you bringing a piece, us talking, you give me the reading, my opinion, see how you take direction. I find out your background, and I kind of attack everybody differently. So it's not a cookie cutter type thing, because some people, you know, their thing is they're pretty easy. They just need to imagine more. They need to speak more slowly. They need the technical things. Other people need everything. They need the technical, they need the visual, they need the creative. So it's not set. I just kind of go in like with my boots on and figure out, okay, what does this person need? So I meet with them, and then later on I think about it. I ruminate on what is it this will help this person. I had one student who she's very good, but she has a tendency to get choppy because she didn't know where to place her breath, and or if a word stumbled her, she stopped. And I thought this was a great exercise. I just kind of said, you know, tape yourself, just read anything. I don't care if it's a phone book. Don't give it meaning, just read it without stopping as fast as you can. Just keep doing it as fast as you can. Do it several times a day. And it stopped, it got better. And then she now has incorporated her husband into this. So they do these little tandem. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And so every week she says, well, we did this and he told me this and he agreed with you on that. And I think it's fantastic. So anyway, that's a long way of saying that yeah, everybody's different. And so I try to approach everybody like they're a person and not a commodity or a you know, somebody who's going to pay me to coach. I try to give everybody individual attention, which is why I was
sorry, you just said my favorite line of any, I'm sure people say it all the time, and I've just obviously the first time I've clocked it. My favorite line on any Joe call I've ever heard, I'm going to put it up in my booth: imagine more. That's, I mean, if that's in your booth and you do nothing else but that, that's like my favorite line ever. I mean, that is worth paying a coach to hear those two words. I love that. I love that because that's the job, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the job is really to just revert to being a child on some level, to let all your concepts, perceptions of, you know, this is how people speak, this is how this happens, this is how that happens. Don't be so judgmental. Just go in and play. Yeah. You know what? And if you may play and do it, and it may not work, it may not be right for that book. But if you go in and play, it will kind of open up the options. It kind of makes you think, well, wait a minute, as again with the discovery, it makes you discover more. And the thing is, you can prep an entire book and think you know the book and still discover when you read. Because it'll suddenly hit you. What didn't hit you while you were prepping will hit you while you're narrating if you were vested into what you were reading. All of a sudden you'll go, like dawn over Marblehead, oh my God, now I get it. And believe me, especially with nonfiction, that happens to me, I don't know how many times during a book, where I'll go, that's what that means. You know, it's not literal. That's what she's trying to say. So yeah, imagine more. Yeah.
I love, and also I feel when I'm prepping, I haven't met the character. I do a little exercise where the characters meet each other. I talk to them before I go in and record it. But I don't feel like I know them until I start recording. And you're right. It hits you once you've started.
That's discovering. See, that's discovering.
Once you're in the booth. But what do you say? Because I realized, and I think I've just clocked it this week. And I think it's because of so many people being at home and the social media is taking over, and we've been at home. I mean, I'm hooked on Facebook. What do you say to people? There's a big impetus in networking, and it is getting very overwhelming. I'll be the first to say, I mean, there's 7 million clubs, there's 7 million groups. Everyone's got a new production company, and it's great. I mean, it's part of what I love, that people are so entrepreneurial. A narrator, I should be able to say that word. But what do you say to people? Because it's miles walked in the boots, right? I mean, how are we doing all this? What do you say about how to keep on top of the business, but still focus on what's important, the craft? I mean, do you ever have a challenge with that?
With social media in general, you mean, or all the Zooms and
Yeah. How much of it do you think is even necessary?
well, I guess I guess it's a necessary evil. We do have to
Yeah.
deal with social media. It's out there. I try to stay away from a lot of it because, the thing is, I find that people are much more short-tempered than they used to be. And so when I go in, for instance, on one of these groups, and I'll see someone ask an innocent question, and then, I get frustrated. I'm like, this person asked, and and they'll say, just read go through the group. You'll see it was answered before, blah, 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 blah. And it drives me crazy. I think people are so uncivil to each other.
Yeah.
So social media for me has gotten to that point, especially Facebook. I think Facebook, people are just very, very uncivil to each other. And I get it. Everybody's frustrated. We're all quarantined. It was supposed to be 6 months, then it was a year. Now it's probably 2 years. So I try to steer clear of Facebook. I do a little bit of Twitter. Instagram I like because it's pictures. But it is a necessary evil. I think if you want people to know you're out there, you have to go on occasionally and toot your own horn. I think there are people who toot their own horn too much, but so that, when I see them come up again, I go, I don't even read their posts.
Yeah, Hillary said that. It's I'm booked through 2027.
Oh, dear God, yes, spare me. It's kind of, know your audience. There are people out there who are working like crazy, and there are people out there who are, climbing uphill trying to get every book.
You've got 300 audiobook narrator friends, and you're telling them all that you're booked and that you're like,
I'm booked for 6 months. Well, lucky you. I find that a turnoff. I mean, I think it's okay to say, well, I got this title and this title, or this book just came out and this book just came out, because publishers see that too. And, you want to thank them. But I do think it's counterproductive to kind of rag on about how much you've won. I also think it's counterproductive. This is going to get me killed. For all these awards, everybody wants an award. They don't all have the same gravity. It's kind of, I could make up the Jo Anna Perrin Award, and then I'll give it to 20 people. That,
actually,
and
that could be
that. That and
a little marketing end. But I was advised that I should be applying for every single award. But as a little kid, the award ceremonies were I had a very carefully scheduled TV schedule, and I lived for my TV shows. And so the award ceremonies were a bunch of grown-ups preempting my show. And I can't get that out of my head. So it's really,
I think we all want accolades because we work in the booth, and especially now we see no one. There's no more meetings or meet and greets or anything else. But it's kind of, I do get overwhelmed by all the, every time I turn around, there's somebody will say, I just want a blah, blah, blah award. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And
yeah, Jim Siebert says, where do I apply for the Jo Anna Award?
First, I have to devise the award. I'll come up with something really lovely.
I could do the promo videos for it.
There you go. It should be something useful, not like a, I don't know.
But you are right. There's so many of them out there that it kind of feels like the meaning of it. And a lot of them people have to put themselves up for.
Yeah. So like, I've spoken to 1 or 2 publishers about them, and they say, it's nice if someone wins an award, but it doesn't necessarily, just any award isn't necessarily going to make us go hire that person. I mean, I've known people who've been nominated for, an Audie or won an Audie, and it didn't do anything for them. It's kind of like the Academy Awards. Some people get a career, and some people, they won an Academy Award and you don't hear from them again. So even some publishers have said to me, they can't keep track of all these awards. And so when someone says just recently won the, the Jim Siebert Award, they're like, well, what's that? I don't know what that is. So they don't really care. They much prefer your demos and having a nice website and staying in touch and getting books, that you can say, well, I just did, 3 books or 4 books over the course of the last 6 months. So yeah, awards ceremonies tend to, I don't know, that's kind of one of my slowly I turn, step by step, stop with all the awards. It gets on my nerves after a while. Because I feel like if you're not nominated, you then start to fit, just like the same thing of, I'm booked for 6 months. Well, if you can't even get nominated for the Jim Seibert Award, what kind of narrator are you? It starts to become such a competition that I just don't see the value in it.
And you also want to be aware of how you're making your fellow narrators feel. I decided I had a horrible week, Christmas week, because everyone's heard this on every single call. But like the whole world stopped working. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not supposed to do anything for a week? I'm a workaholic. So I set up all these public domain books that I want to do. And I did covers I was really proud of. So I posted the covers, coming soon, coming soon. And I didn't realize, I assumed people would know they were just public domain books. Anyone can do a public domain book. I mean, I didn't write The Invisible Man, and the author didn't just contact me and say, you want to do it, But then suddenly I was getting messages from people going, where are you getting all these books? And it made me realize people are seeing this like, oh, she's getting all this work. Nobody's getting all this work. We're all really busy and then not, and then really busy again and then not. And that's like it. No matter, I think even if you've done thousands and millions of books, do you know what I mean? And Sean Pratt says if a narrator doesn't talk in a wood, nobody will hear a tree falling or something. I always get it wrong.
It sounds like Sean.
But you're right, necessary evil. I mean, I still have to someday, but maybe just make it an admin task, like sending letters out to publishers.
I think it's a rabbit hole or a time suck. You can get so involved in making sure you're seen. That's why some there are people who will they'll glom onto every comment. They have to say something. They have to give you a thumbs up. They have to be on every comment. And I think they feel that somehow validates them and puts them higher, gives them a higher presence. And maybe it does. I don't know. It could just be.
It's asking for external. It's the opposite of what you get from doing a public domain job or doing, something you love. It's you're wanting external validation.
You're looking for outward validation instead of, validating yourself.
Yeah.
Basically.
Really hard in this job, though.
Yeah. Well, it's an act, any acting, anything. I mean, when you do theater, film, TV, it's the same thing. You're only as good as your last job. And then, I have a friend years ago he was a character actor, he's a little older, and he was always working, but always working. If there was a character part, it was him. Mm-hmm. And his constant refrain was, I haven't worked in a week. I'm just never going to work again. If you wanted to slap him up the side of the head, it's like, oh, please stop. You'll be working like next month. And he always was. And he still is. He's still on, I see him on TV all the time. But his thing was, I'll never work again. And, we all do that. We all look for that outward validation of somebody else telling us, yeah, you're good.
But every time we go in the booth, we strengthen we go in the booth, we imagine more, we strengthen that muscle. I'm so bad at that. I can't allow myself on Facebook before the booth or I won't get anything done.
That's what I mean. It is a time suck. I mean, you'll make a comment and then you'll jump on to see if anybody liked it or whatever. So if they didn't like it, you're still breathing, you're still going to have lunch.
You're getting a 6-hour debate about their reaction to your comment.
Yeah. But, we all do it. And it's not just a thing for actors. I think everybody does it. I think we all do it. And I think social media has brought it out more in all of us. That's kind of why I like Instagram, because people don't really say things. They just show pictures or they have a book that just came out. It's not really somewhere where people are chatting away. So, there's not going to be any argument.
Talk. I tried to go on it today because full disclosure, someone mentioned they got booked by a publisher because they were on Instagram and they reached out. So today I was like really enthusiastically Instagramming. You don't get to talk. I don't get the point.
Well, I think
say anything.
Some people use it for just a mixture of business and pleasure. So, you can go in and put pictures of your dogs, or, here's the book I have coming out. So publishers see that. And so they go, oh, well, I don't really know Daniela, but look, she just did this book and I have a book like that. So yeah, I'm sure you can get work from it. I mean, no one has specifically told me they got work from it. And to be honest, I haven't really used it much for business because I just like putting up pictures. So I haven't done that. I may start saying, at least I have this book coming out or that book coming out.
I think I'll just add it to
that
admin, like post videos and stuff on it.
I wouldn't know how to post a video.
I'm not easy.
Savvy. I was amazed that you couldn't take a picture off Instagram and put it somewhere else. You know what I mean? You have to go through all these hoops to do that.
Actually, you can.
I did it, but it was like a 10-step. I'm thinking there's
a workaround.
Oh,
there's a workaround. You can snip
tell
it.
Me the workaround. Yeah. Actually, somebody took a picture of us with our dogs, and he's a professional photographer. He met us on the street. It's a great picture. I have tried so many times to just take the picture, and the best either one of us could do was to get the picture on Twitter that says it's Twitter and has the comments attached with the picture.
I can cut it for you and save it as a JPEG and send it to you if you want. Touch base after the call. Okay, so let's get back to the stuff the audience is eagerly waiting for, like valuable coaching insight, and I'm like going off on a tangent again. Sorry, guys. Every call, it's like what Daniela's interested in that week. But so I want to know more about how, because full disclosure, I do nonfiction. I get booked for a lot of nonfiction. I've done a lot of nonfiction. I'm going to choose a thriller if I've got a choice. What do you mention that you have a little difference, you and Sean? Is that something you can explain, or?
It usually translates while we're speaking about stuff. I think because, since I said I'm kind of boots on and go in and everybody's an individual. Not that Sean doesn't do that, but Sean has a program, and he's very, he used to be a stage manager as well, I believe. Yeah. And so he goes in and he's got A, B, C, he's got a whole thing. And when you're on topic this is your homework. When you have topic this is your homework. And I don't operate that way, although a lot of our ideas about, nonfiction are the same. The way we get to it, I guess, is what I'm saying, is different. We have a different way of getting there.
What do you wish you could get people to understand that you find common issues students have, things you wish they would stop doing or would do more of, or that you try to explain and they just don't get? Because we all have things where we just don't get it for a while.
I think, and this is just really basic, a lot of people have a narrator voice, which they don't have when they're talking. So they go in and narrate, and all of a sudden they sound like this, and you're kind of going, where's your real voice? That's not your real voice. And I think that's a problem. I think, and I used to do it too when I first started out. We think a narrator is supposed to sound a certain way. So we try to stylize that voice. It's like years ago when they used to make fun of, remember, come down today and buy, blah, 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 blah. The commercial, there was that male narrator voice. And everybody tried to emulate that. And a lot of people do that when they first approach audiobooks. They have this voice that is not their voice. And I remember, it's the same thing if you study theater. When I studied theater, I was at Ensemble Studio, and I was being coached. And a couple went on who were very talented actors, but everything changed. And I remember the coach at that point just kind of threw down his script. He goes, what is it with actors? He said, you've got a sense of humor. You go up there, you lose your sense of humor. And he's right. People open an audiobook, especially if they're beginning, they've lost their sense of humor. They suddenly think they have to be a narrator, and they come up with a narrator's voice. And so I find that's the biggest thing to shake people out of. To say, you don't understand, that doesn't sound natural. That just sounds odd. And to say that nicely and get them to shake that is really hard. And they'll go, oh yeah, I get it. I sound really natural. And then they'll do it again. So that's, I think, my biggest hurdle. And timing. This is if people have had some training, let's say. People either speak too slow or too fast. Now, I'm a New Yorker. I speak fast, but I don't narrate fast. So, it's pace. I find a lot of people have problems with pace, intonation and pace.
And what you said about the first one, I had a director, a famous character here, director in London, but he was like 95 years old or something, and he was trying to get an actor to stop using that voice. I remember, and he kept going over and over. He was getting more and more angry, and because he's like, that's not you, where are you? And then finally he ran up onto the stage like, I'm 98 years old and I've got more life in me than you. And that's one way to never forget.
But it's true. I don't know what it is. I mean, we put ourselves on stage or in front of a camera or in front of a mic, and all of a sudden we lose our personality. We lose our sense of humor. We lose our warmth. I don't understand. And I'm as guilty of it as anybody. I mean, every time I go in, if there's something in my booth, it's warmth. I would say warmth. Like no matter what the topic, I don't care if it's a horrible topic, you've got to keep a semblance of your humanity in front, a bit of the warmth. And yeah, I don't know, we get a spotlight and we lose all that. We lose a sense of humor. That's it. So yeah, I find that's the biggest hurdle. Getting people to go back to their natural sound is often a problem.
And in this job, and that's even a challenge no matter how hard you try, how long you've been doing it, because you have a bad day. You're upset about, I thought I was having bad news last night. It didn't turn out to be bad news, but I thought, how am I going to go in tomorrow? You've got other stuff.
Yeah.
And you've got it. Do you find that easy?
Well, I guess this is here where I would mirror Shannon.
Before you start this, I've got to stop. Do you fancy a glass of wine? It could be arranged to have it delivered.
I guess I can always use a glass of wine.
Okay, so yes, please.
I could have used one before we started.
Okay, so back to the question. Sorry, bringing real emotions. Oh, and Melissa and Harry as well would like the wine.
Tell them to stop by.
Wine for everyone.
Guys, this call is taking a turn here.
This is like bringing cookies. Do we have enough for the whole class?
I mean, I have an excuse. It's 9 o'clock, but
look, wine. You've lost me. The wine. Yeah, blame
yes.
the wine. I was going to say, this is where I kind of mirror Shannon. If at the height of crazy, sometimes it's really great to just go in the booth and shut the door. Because once I do that, my mind focuses on what's in front of me and I stop racing. If I sit out here, I'll watch the news, I'll be glued to CNN or something and I'll lose my mind. So going in the booth, shutting the door is like a little oasis. Yeah. So that's helpful.
So how do you think I'm asking for a friend again in my internal bid to like fool people and lie and say I'm a New Yorker, born and bred. How do you think being a New Yorker informs your work? Because it has to, where we're from, who we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to. I have an East Coast sensibility, so I think that translates into my narration. And I also think that's probably unconsciously translates into what publishers offer me. I find that, you're not going to hire me, well, I've been hired to do it, but you don't think of me and think of someone doing a Southern book. I think if you're hiring me, you're thinking of East Coast. And this sounds really awful. Johnny always says that, I cringe. But he said it's kind of this idea of, especially for nonfiction, that there's an East Coast intelligentsia, which
I kind of is. That's kind of cool.
I mean, maybe there is, I don't know if I manifest that, but I guess there is. So yeah, I think it has to translate into it. And I do think it does manifest how publishers see me, book-wise.
Because it's that weird world, though. Everything's online. It's like we all grew up, unless you're like really, really old. Like, I don't care how old you are. We all grew up watching our fair share of TV. right? Unless you had like a really, really, really healthy family that like lived somewhere where they didn't have TV.
Yes,
So,
but by the time you were 21, your mother was probably in an asylum. Yeah, yes.
probably.
If you weren't in front of the TV, she was probably losing her mind.
I mean, we were like raised with the TV, like all the time. And so we all have like our cliches and our tropes and our, you know, our things that are ideas. And I think, and now it's like crazy over the top because everyone's inside. So if we're branding, it's like social media, we have to be aware of it. Might as well use it to our advantage. You know,
I think I'm indirectly branded. I know, here's where Sean has a thing where, you know, you brand, you come up with 3 adjectives or whatever for what you do. I've never done that. I just kind of do what I do and put it out there, and people come. If you put it out there, they will come. And publishers luckily have come, but I don't know how. I think I'm not self-aware enough to come up with 3 adjectives to describe my narration style or anything else about me.
I did ask him to please stop asking people to do that, because right after he asks people to do that, the next morning, they a lot of times send me a message saying, by the way, can you please tell me what 3 adjectives you think of when you hear my voice? I think I've had maybe 120 requests so far for that.
Well, I was laughing about a week ago. I was looking at I was thinking of doing something to my website. I was looking at websites, and a lot of people have that. And I went, oh, Sean Student, because he's made it such a thing that, you know, it's his students.
Yeah.
And I guess it's helpful for students to know that, and it helps them present themselves. I've never branded myself. I've gotten branded as a nonfiction narrator, but I've never, to be honest, I haven't a clue why they hire me. I'm being quite honest. I don't know. I'm glad they do, but I don't know.
Think about what the people said about you because before every call, I kind of go, so what do you think of so-and-so? Just to get the general, and it's she's not loud and out there, but when she talks, she means business. So the fact that you don't feel that you're like pushing at everything, I think you've done yourself a favor, because it seems like you've garnered a reputation for somebody that's, I'm so good, I don't need to advertise it. but think about it, because it's true. Your work stands for you. I admire that. I want to be, because I've tried playing the social media game. I'm way too loud to ever be she's quiet and knows her business. but I like the idea. I think we could all use some of that, of we work really hard, and our work, I think we could all use a little bit more of less telling people what we do and more showing them.
Well, you know, I always think of Hillary. I love Hillary, and I love her voice, and I love Cassandra Campbell. And if you go on Facebook, the only time Hillary really goes on Facebook is if she's got something to say or something to ask. She's not like, you know, there, you know, all the time. And Cassandra, I could count on one hand the times I've seen Cassandra say anything in the last 6 months. She's a wonderful narrator, and she works all the time, and people know who she is.
Everyone
and
knows
I respect her.
Both of them.
Yeah,
everyone knows you. But
I don't know. I always think people don't know who the heck I am.
Yeah,
I think they see me next to Johnny and they go, "Oh yeah, that's who she is."
No, you've had the same amount, if not more, people log on immediately, right on the hour on your website. People know who you are immediately, and I think it's endearing. It's kind of like Johnny, the fact that Johnny doesn't get that people are like all, you know, like starstruck by him. Like, I know he's aware of it, but he doesn't go around going, "Oh, I'm Johnny," and everyone loves him for
Johnny
that. but it's why people like him, because it's that authenticity. You're being who you are. If you started being aware of being who you are, then you wouldn't be so fun, would you?
Well, I don't know. Since my background is Italian and Catholic, I have enough guilt on every level. And you know what I mean? You don't brag. You don't. So I don't know. Maybe that's part of my upbringing, but it's news to me. I really am always surprised when somebody knows who the heck I am. I remember when they used to be, we used to meet in public, that I did something in a booth back when they did Chicago. The APA met in Chicago like 5-6 years ago. And they asked Tavia, Simon Vance, Johnny Heller, and me to be on a panel signing these books and things. And I was there and I'm like, seriously, no one's going to know who I am.
Everyone is, but, and also because you're a writer, you have as much of a reputation. I knew you first as a writer, then a narrator, then a coach, and then an actor. And I mean, you say that you're an actor in as well. I know, but your reputation as a writer. And
I guess, but I don't expect like people to necessarily recognize me or recognize it. And so I'm sitting between or among these three big names, and I'm sitting there thinking, nobody's gonna know who I am. These little nerd, kind of nerds. That's my niche. Tech nerd guys came over and they wanted me to sign stuff, and I'm thinking, you didn't really know who I am. And they were going, oh yeah, I listened to, and they would rattle off books, and I was going, seriously? Somebody knows who I am? And it's always fascinating to me because I really just feel like I fly under the radar.
I love that, okay, though. I love that. I think everyone could learn from it. Not just me. Everyone could learn from it. We don't have to be so desperate to be seen. We can fly under the radar. There are a lot of really successful, really well-known narrators that are not on every single group on Facebook and liking every single comment and driving themselves crazy. And do you know what I mean? We don't have to be doing it. We just have to like rock up and do our job and sometimes share.
Yeah. If you've got something to share, by all means, share it. But to just kind of idle away hours trying to make yourself seen constantly, I don't know what that accomplishes. I think after a while, it turns some people off because they go, oh, it's him again. Oh, it's her again. Whereas if you come out,
feel bad. Why would you want to make people feel bad? That doesn't make you. Why would I want to make someone? I mean, yeah, if I ever got booked through 2027, I'm not already. Yes, please. But why would I go on and want everyone else to feel bad about that? Just because I got lucky. That's what it is luck.
The flip side of that is if you go on too often and say, I'm booked for the next 3 months and I'm a publisher, I might be going, oh, I was just thinking of contacting him or her, but I guess they're just too busy. Well, I'll go on to somebody else. I could see that being the flip side of it. Well, they're busy. Well, I won't bother them.
Yeah. So
I think you should leave it open.
Endearing
you're
pet
busy.
Videos is the way to go.
Yes.
So you do the coaching and everything, and I mean, do you take on a lot of students? How do you juggle it all? What do you prioritize?
Well, without sounding like I'm doing a lot of books, because I'm not. It's kind of a book. It revolves around audiobooks. If I really have a tight schedule, because I find, especially with one specific publisher, I get a lot of large books with research, but they want it back in 2 weeks. So if I get a lot of that, I don't want to take in a lot of students.
Right.
And if I have students that come in every week religiously, I kind of tell them to take a week off. Take a week off. Take time for yourself, practice by yourself if you want, because not just to give us both a break, but if I see you every week, sometimes it's hard for me to pick up on something that I might see if I haven't seen you for 2 weeks. Or I might hear, I should say, that I didn't hear if I didn't see you for 2 weeks.
And also, how are they going to do their homework if they just?
Yeah,
they've got to do the work too.
That is a pet peeve. If someone comes in and they haven't at least prepped the piece they brought, how am I going to help you? You know what I mean? I can't see what you've done, or I can't hear what you've done. You've got to have enough respect for the fact that you're paying money to sit with me, and you should give yourself enough of an advantage to prep it before you bring it in. But a lot of people don't. They just kind of cold read a piece. And even if you're a great cold reader, that's a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
So.
And you're not going to make it, you're not going to do the best job, are you? If you've not prepared and done your homework, then
Which is funny because by the time they've read the piece at least twice, in let's say in 20 minutes, now they're doing a good job. Because now this should have been the starting point. Instead, we have to go 20 minutes in to get to this point because they didn't bother to prep.
Yeah.
So, and that always kind of confuses me. If I was paying somebody, I'm not that I'm cheap, but I've always been, I'm an actor. I'm used to like you get money and it's like, woohoo. One day it's champagne, the next day it's pretzels and beer. So, you kind of make sure you spend your money judiciously, even with classes. So it always floors me if someone spends money and they don't come in prepped. Because I'm like, do you have that much money to blow? I mean,
but
so,
you know what, I've got to be honest, another thing I've noticed is people feel that they have to get coaches because it's a big competition. And I feel for the people that maybe started in the COVID thing, because you're starting with a ton of other people. So you feel like you're in like a massive marathon with hundreds of runners around you. And I've heard people, I'm getting coach fatigue. I've had like 10 coaches this year and I'm broke. I can't afford it, but they feel that they have to keep up. They feel that they have to be able to say, I've been to this coach, and this coach to keep up, which in my opinion is throwing your money away, because what are you asking? The first question, if I go to a coach, is what do I want from the coach?
Yeah, I mean, that should be, you mean that people go in and think that if they name drop enough coaches, it looks like they've really studied?
It's almost like, I don't know if they're thinking consciously, I'm going to name drop. I think they're thinking, if I see all the coaches that I'm supposed to, if I go to all the coaches that everyone goes to, I'm following the right career path. I'll learn what I need to learn to get there. But they don't know what their questions are. But they just want the coach to make them, this is what I have to do to be a good narrator. They're trying really diligently to be a good narrator. So they're looking around them. And I can't, because what would you do if you're new and you come in and millions of other people are trying?
Well, I would think that your best avenue would be, I mean, I wish when I had started out, there were more coaches. There weren't. You just kind of got thrown in and sank or swim. And most of the time, honestly, I sank. So, because I didn't have.
I went to Sean Pratt for that reason, now that I think about it, if I'm honest.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I still, sometimes on a book, I'm not sure. How do I handle it? I'll go to Johnny and I'll say, what's your take? Is this a good take? I mean,
but you two are like a power couple. So if one of you doesn't know, the other one will.
Well, it's, we can bounce stuff off each other. But if you're going to spend money with coaches, I would say get one. Here's the thing. Every coach has their own method. So if you really want to try different coaches, then I think there's often like when we did our Zoom in November, it was a medium where we had 7, 8, 9, 10 different coaches. So you could kind of pop in and see how one coach did something and another coach. So you could see, is this the right fit? Is he the right fit? I think you're better off finding someone who's the right fit, that makes you feel that you understand what you're supposed to do and you can do it. I don't think jumping around from coach to coach to coach and going broke, that's just more of an actor getting abused. I think there are too many ways that when people go, let's do this, actors will pay for anything. And we will. It's true. We hear the latest guru, we'll go. And, the latest guru may not be your person. They may not be able to.
And they could be. I mean, they could be great. The ones I'm hearing, they're asking each other. So they're going to good coaches. They're not. But if you don't know what you want or what you're looking for, and you're new and you just want the coach to like fix you, it's like me going to a diet coach and going, okay, can you please make me skinny? I still have to eat frigging lettuce. You know what I mean? I think I can say it now, but I went to Sean for that. I love Sean. Sean's the reason I'm still a narrator. But that's why I booked Sean, because I need to do what I need to do.
Sean's a great coach. He can relay things to people so they easily understand it. We've worked in tandem, I'm going to say maybe a dozen times, but I don't know, probably. And he's great. And he's a good fit.
Yeah.
He may not be the perfect fit for everybody, but he's a good fit for the majority of people. I may not be a perfect fit for everybody, but there may only be a handful. But for those people, I'm a good fit. So I think you have to find the person that, no one's going to fix you. You have to fix yourself.
Yeah, you got to go to them for, go to Jo Anna. I'm sitting here thinking, now, can I afford to go to Jo Anna? You go to Joanna if you want help with your acting, if you want to talk nonfiction, do you know what I mean? It's have
There's
a
so many coaches.
reason, not just
There's
my friends all are paying
are
for it,
going
and
to this
I don't
for
pay as
exactly.
much.
If your forte, or you want your forte to be nonfiction, then go to a nonfiction coach. If you really want voices, if you know what you're doing but you want character help, go to somebody who's good with character. There are
Yeah.
plenty of people out there that we all know. So, I don't think you should go to everybody like, a bee going to every flower, but, shop around, talk to people. Some coaches offer a free half hour, 20 minutes to talk to them to see if you're on the same page before you, marry yourself to them. But I don't really think just hopping around from coach to coach is going to help anybody. I think it's more confusing, because I always said at the beginning of everything when I was in Rhode Island or online, I'll always say, you're going to hear different opinions from all these coaches. You're either going to hear us argue with each other, or you're going to hear us overlap. Take what works for you. If it works for you, fine. If it doesn't, discard it. It's just useless information. So you've got to keep an open mind, but you don't have to break the bank.
And I found the good coaches all kind of agree about the basics, and where they diverge, they know each other's work and they respect it. So I've never ever, and I've been to a lot of coaches, but I have to say, and the only thing that saved me from doing what they're all doing now is that I ran out of money really fast and couldn't afford one for like years. That's the only thing that saved me. I probably would have followed the same route and coach hopped, but I hate seeing it, because all these people are new and they're so diligent and they're so excited and enthusiastic, and they're going broke and they're pushing, and it's not an emergency. They're going to be doing this for like years.
Yeah. Well, people are going to write books, and books are going to be made into audiobooks, and I don't think that's going to change. So if you're just starting out, it's not like you've got to get this tomorrow, or, you're never going to work. I think when you're ready. I wish I had a better background in audiobooks when I started, because the mistakes I made, I wouldn't have made, because those books still follow me around.
Even being an actress. But how could you have gotten a better background in audiobooks without doing the audiobook?
But audiobooks it's kind of like what they say about film, less is more. And I always tell it to my students. If you're used to stage, everything's big movements and everything's loud.
I still do that.
Yeah, you're trying to get someone to tamp that down and realize that in a listener's ear isn't going to work.
Yeah, stop playing to the back row.
Yeah, you don't have to pay. If you got a microphone, they can lower the volume or raise the volume. So, that's part of it.
But you're Italian, right?
Oh yeah.
In your house, did you not have to speak up to be heard?
Well, yes and no. I was going to say I've had cousins' families where you had to speak up to be heard. No, my family was a little calmer as far as Italians go.
Really?
They were a little calmer. So we didn't scream. That's why sometimes Johnny says something really loud and I'll go, stop yelling. He's going, I'm not yelling. But it's because to me, people don't really raise their voices unless they're angry. So for me, that's an adaptation I have to get to accept.
You're the first Italian I've ever met that didn't, because we had the screaming. You scream hi, you scream what do you want for dinner, and then everyone screams their answer.
I have to say, I have family in Italy, and whenever I visited, that is kind of a thing, that people are really loud, hey, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of like, oh, okay. But my family was calmer. They were calmer. My dad was from Italy, but my mom was from Oyster Bay, Long Island. So there was kind of a difference, I guess. She was calm, he was Italian, and she was Italian too, but she was, she'd had a couple generations separation, and so it kind of had a middle ground, I guess.
So the volume was a bit modified. So I so want to learn to sound like a New York narrator now. I just lie and say I have a New York accent on my demos, and I think, I talk fast enough anyway. They'll assume I'm from New York. But yeah.
It has that much of a, well, I guess to me, because I'm from New York, but I guess to me, it's more like if you're from Britain and you have a British accent, that I'm in awe. I'm like, I just kind of drool. So I guess the same thing can apply to New York, but to me, I'm from New York, so it's like, we just
So
like everybody
yeah,
else.
so you can't even, I've been here too long and I can't even hear the accent. I've used to follow people around. Are you good with, I need to let you go soon. We're running way over. I've had way too much fun. I got it. When people start dropping off and falling asleep on me, I know that I've left it too long. But are you good at accents? Do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy them. Unfortunately, I don't get a lot of chance to use them because, nonfiction, no. But yeah, I'm pretty good at them. But I always study. If I have to do an accent, I will study up before I do it. I'm really good if I have a natural person in front of me, because then I can mimic them. It was kind of a problem when I was a waiter. Someone would come up and say, well, I'll have the soup. And I said, well, I'll get that for you. And you know what I mean? You kind of, and you didn't even realize it. And you walk away and go, oh my God, did I just do that? So, there's that. And my dad had this Italian accent, and sometimes I'd be talking to him on the phone and I kind of start using his accent. So if I have someone there, I can mimic them. But whenever the times have come up where I've needed something like a Russian accent or something for a book, I go to YouTube and I listen to natives speak, and then I refresh it in my head. So
I love that. Thank you so much. It's been a joy chatting with you.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody showing up.
You're welcome back anytime. You're welcome back. Guest of honor. And oh, I forgot. Sorry, guys. I know I'm running over. I gabbed a bit myself this time too. Final word for our YouTube audience that's going to be watching you in the next 60 years.
Oh, dear God.
Words of wisdom. No pressure.
Well, okay, there's an old quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it. And they say that true wisdom is admitting that you know nothing. Because that leaves you open to gray areas, and not everything's black and white. So maybe those are my words of wisdom. Just be willing to admit you know nothing and learn. Makes life a lot more interesting.
And imagine more. I love that.
And imagine more.
I love that. Okay, thank you so much, Joanna.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Love you all. Take care. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.